Hello, everybody. Good morning. This will be the last presentation on water and for the class. I'll probably put a couple of questions on water on the final, so just so you're aware about that. But I'm going to do another review for you. I'll post it up hopefully today for you. All right. I'll do that before I finish up grading your papers. I'm almost done with all of them, and I'll get them out in mass here pretty soon. Okay. Um, What else? So don't forget your final is going to be posted on Monday. And then you have until the day your regularly scheduled. Um, I lost my videos. Oh, no, hang there. Your regular scheduled final is due to end. All right, I can put it up before that time frame, so it's going to be like I think 10 or 10:30 for everybody, and one class is on Wednesday and one class is on Thursday. And at that time frame, it will disappear for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this class. It was really hectic, huh? We had some crazy things go on, and I applaud all of you for hanging in there this semester and finishing this stuff up. And hopefully, next year you'll be able to get back to class. I'm hoping to do the same thing. And I miss everybody and miss socializing, but we're gonna need to take this thing a little serious. And we don't know exactly yet how to handle it. Hopefully, we will be figuring that out in the weeks and months to come. But remember, when you're reading stuff on the internet or hearing newscasters talk or what have you, use your critical thinking skills and does this sound right? And go out and figure it out for yourself, all right? Don't just blow them off with some kind of bias. Go and look, all right? So we're finding new and more important things every day. All right? And some things just don't make sense, right? Drinking a bottle of bleach is not going to cure you from COVID 19. All right. I'll assure you, you won't die from COVID 19 if you drink a bottle of bleach, but it's not going to cure you or fix it in any way. All right. And that's kind of common sense, right? So keep your critical thinking skills out there. Watch what's going on in the world. This is a historic time. A lot of different things are happening, and they're all connected. Just like everything here in the world is connected together. Okay, the butterfly effect definitely does occur, and I hope you've learned that throughout this class that everything is really tied together. And we are finishing up with what the water section here. All right, and remember that we talked about how it's disproportionately disproportionately around this earth, so we got to watch out. Sometimes there's bigger populations with less water, who need more water, with other smaller populations that have all the water, and big power sources and military and all this other stuff go into that unequal distribution of water around the world. And we've also talked about how that can affect societies, right? And now we are finishing up with some solutions about how we handle the withdrawal of water and solutions of how to keep it clean, right? Because that's what the real problem is. As well is that when we finally, get together and start working together about this water issue, there's still the problem of not taking too much out so that the rainfall can regenerate our aquifers, which we talked about a lot last class, and then also pollution, which we'll talk about pollution today. All right, and it's basically two different types of pollution out there per se. All right, there's biological pollution. All right, where we get like a parasite inside of the water, and that parasite then gets into us and then kills us. Okay, so it's not really the water's fault. I mean, water has a lot of living material inside of it, and that then gets into us. And overcoming that takes a lot of science, right? And sometimes it takes people to get quarantined and people to be, to step in and do some stuff, social distancing, right? This cracks me up because this is actually an example of social distancing and a local community getting together and patrolling itself, right? Maybe this COVID-19 epidemic we can learn from some of the techniques they use to stop the spread of this parasite around here. So fair warning, in the beginning of this video, it's pretty disturbing. They're actually pulling this parasite out of a little kid's feet. So I don't, I just want to warn you, it's kind of gross. All right. But later on, they stop showing that and they talk about what really went on here. All right. So let's take a look at this parasitic um, disease that's passed on through the water. And we got this kind of stuff happening here in the United States. So we have a parasite that's spreading throughout Mississippi and some of the poorer countries that can show up in septic water tanks. All right, so we're still having these kind of things happen here. It's just not this New Guinea worm disease. Okay.
For thousands of years, the guinea worm parasite has caused disabling misery. Its victims infected by drinking water.
Thousands of years this has been around.
Worm larvae. After a year, the adult worm, up to 3 feet long, emerges from the body through agonizing skin blisters that incapacitate
man,
and cripple.
kind of hurt.
There is no cure for this, and the only treatment is wrapping the worm around a stick and pulling it out inch by inch every day for weeks. But
Ouch.
now the end of guinea worm disease is within reach, the result of a more than 2-decade eradication campaign led by former U.S. President Jimmy Carter and the Carter Center based in Atlanta. In 1986, there were an estimated 3.5 million cases of guinea worm in Africa and Asia. That number has now been reduced by more than 99%. The only way to stop guinea worm disease is to break its life cycle for at least 1 year. Across wide areas in Africa, that's the goal of field workers from the Carter Center, working with a coalition of governments and international agencies.
The world working together.
When you don't have guinea worm, then the children can go to school, the farmers can plant their crops, and the entire economic status of a village and a community and a nation can be helped.
But they have to shut it down for a year, the whole economy. Right? They got to shut off the water source for a whole year.
Supplying millions of water filters, applying safe chemical treatment to water sources, and providing safe water from underground wells.
We hope and expect that within a year or two there will be no more guinea worm anywhere.
If they succeed, within the next few years, guinea worm could become the second human disease in history, after smallpox, to be eradicated from the earth.
That's crazy, huh? Guinea worm. And they almost did it. It hasn't come true yet because I think it showed up once again. It had another flare up somewhere in the world, but it's very, very close to being eradicated, even down to 99%. And you notice how they have to break the life cycle of that parasite in order to kill it. It takes a year. Mother Nature, it's time. All right. And, they don't have to actually shut down the economy, like I said. They, show all those filters and stuff like that. They got to put a lot of stuff in place. All right. And change society's ways of cleaning that water properly and not making sure that they go in it. Because what happens, you get that guinea worm, and one way to really relieve the pain is to put your foot in the water. And that relieves it all, and it triggers the guinea worm to get out like a split, and then it goes out and does the next life cycle and lays its egg in the next foot. Okay, and it spreads like crazy because it's a worm. Right, its reproductive rate, total fertility rate is huge. It lays millions of eggs at one time, just like seeds. Right, K's strategy, or our strategy for reproductivation. Right, I think we talked about that in the beginning of the semester. Okay. And that's just one of the problems. The other one would be like there's chemicals in the water, all right? And these are pollutants that we put in. So sometimes we increase the amount of lead inside the water, right? And then that lead gets into us. So once again, it's not really the water's fault. It's just that there's some heavy metals inside of that water. And that's what we fight with probably the most here in the United States. We're able to keep our water clean of parasites. We got chlorine and all this other stuff to get all that biological parasites out of there, but we leave a lot of the heavy metals in there sometimes, and they're not really taking it out. All right, and we can do that chemically, right? We can put more chemicals in there to get rid of those other chemicals, but it's just total recycling of the matter, right? We just take the matter and put it somewhere else. In this little video here, it's called Ecological Design by John Todd. He's going to be talking about some ecological designs, but one of the reasons I wanted to show you this is he talks a lot about what's called the living machine. And way back when John Todd was living in the 60s in a hippie or a commune, and they kind of living off the land, and his primary thing was, how do you clean water? How do you get heavy toxins out of water using natural biology? And he created what's called a living machine that uses Mother Nature to clean the water, right? And that has blossomed into ecological design, and it kind of was ecological design before, but that's what he's using. All right, we could do that for soil. We can do this for a lot of different things. Apply the ecological machine to a lot of different principles out there. Okay, but in this video he talks a lot. You'll see all these little water things, and that's where it really started from. So if we properly design the water plants to clean this heavy metals out of here, Mother Nature can do that, and you don't have to pay a snail or a flower any money. You just got to make sure that you keep it alive, and we need to take into consideration the carrying capacity of these living machines, and if they're constructed right. So you're building a whole new ecosystem to take care of the ecosystem, to clean, to take care of that ecological service. So there's a nice balance, and that's what's really stopping that, because we got millions of people that live in the cities. We would have to have a couple of these ecological machine plants to take up some extra land to be able to clean that water as rapidly as we're going to replace it. All right, but they can be used. All right, and it shows that if you do it properly. There's a book up in the stacks up there in Robert Morris Library. Probably has a lot of dust in it. I was probably the last person to ever check it out. It's called Ecological Engineering, and they go over this living machine, and they say if you build it right, it will cost about 25% less to build for a community to build one of these plants than a big industrial plant that will go over in the PowerPoints. And it costs 65% less to run, because you're not bringing any inputs in. All right, it's a living machine. It cleans itself. So once it's established and you have that ecosystem running, as long as you monitor it and don't overload it in certain systems, it will clean that water forever and ever and ever. If that flow and carrying capacity and all the ecological footprint and all that stuff's okay, it should live on. All right, and an interesting side story is that Ben and Jerry's, that ice cream place, makes ice cream, use this living machine. And Tyson Food uses it. A lot of different places use this kind of thing to treat their wastewater. Right, all part of the process. It's all part of the process. And they were cleaning their water, and they switched over and started making some yogurt stuff. And they put that into the culture, and it hurt the living machine, because the biological machine in there that was running was not used to that yogurt, and it killed off some of the things, and that took out one little ecological component of that system. Couldn't handle the bacteria, and it made the whole thing tropic cascade happen in their living machine. So we need to be careful with these kind of things, but I love the design, and what makes me excited about when I teach this stuff, this is the kind of stuff I teach in the sustainable development or sustainability minor here at Robert Morris, how to implement ecological design, not only in the water, cleaning of our water, but also the cleaning of our soil, and living in different buildings and getting our energy and all that other stuff. It's all based on sustainability. It's all based on building Mother Nature systems and letting Mother Nature drive the conversation in us. Okay, so let's watch this little video about ecological design and John Todd.
What makes the difference from a living machine and a regular machine? Well, the first and the fundamental difference is a living machine operates from sunlight. It's the basic engine.
Sun is the basic engine. How many times did I said that throughout this whole class?
To self-organize, to self-design, to self-repair, and to self-replicate, like the great ecologies themselves. So what is a living machine? A living machine is like any other machine. It does work.
It cleans our water, cleans our soil, gives us biogas, sunlight, or electricity, not sunlight.
undertake
food.
environmental repair. Living machines can be designed that can regulate the climate and air quality in buildings.
It's my kind of
such as
greenhouse
this.
right there.
Living machines can be designed to allow us to create ecological industrial parks where manufacturing and food production and other forms of human activity can be integrated into holistic, comprehensive systems. The more that I learned of these various ecologies, the more I
He
saw
started with this all
similarities at
because he
another
wanted
level.
clean water.
They all had the ability
Take
to
heavy metals out, and he picked out these different
self-organize,
plants
to self-repair,
to take those
to
heavy
replicate.
metals out and their
They
human
had
waste
more
out
attributes in common than they had
in their
differences.
commune so they can have
We can
clean
also
water.
do this in quick time if we take a big jar of water and mud and we go to local ponds
There's a
and
YouTube
lakes
on how he does
and
this.
fill it up with life forms. Within a matter of days and weeks, what we see inside these bottles exposed to sunlight is nature organizing itself at an extremely rapid rate. This, I believe, is ecological design. Seeing these processes is kind of like the scale falling from my eyes. That these forces which I've just talked about could be harnessed technologically. That human beings might be able to use these same forces.
This is one of his first
Carry out
experiments
the
out in the
work
Chesapeake Bay,
that is
cleaning the
necessary
waters in the Chesapeake
for
Bay,
us
the
to
heavy
stay
metals
alive
from
and to stay
the
alive
Industrial
without destroying,
Revolution there.
which is the common attribute of the 20th century. In other words, it's possible for us to think about technologies that can last for hundreds and even thousands of years. The ecologies themselves, whether they were generating fuels or transforming waste,
Supper time.
continue to evolve and serve ourselves as well as the planet.
So I really like the John Todd's Living Machine. And it all started with him wanting to clean water from heavy metals and stuff and provide clean water for his commune out there in the 1960s. And it's ballooned into a nice little, system, okay? And not only can we use that kind of design to clean our waters, we can also use that to clean our soils, like I said, our air, all different kinds of things. And I love that basic principle. Okay, so let's finish this up here today. We're going to talk about solutions, all right, to water withdrawal, and then also cleaning our water, the pollution problem, and then we're going to call it quits. All right. So solutions for depletion of fresh water. All right. So we have the water withdrawal problem. All right, because we know that population growth, expansion of irrigation, and industrial development has doubled our use of fresh water over the past 50 years. We saw that usage graph going on last class. So addressing these water shortages means increasing supply, right, or reducing demand. But sometimes we can't always increase supply because if we do, we're not going to have anything to demand later on. Right? We got to make sure that our water withdrawal is equaling the recharge rate, or we're going to be definitely in trouble. All right. But there's a lot of people out there that say that we can desalinate or use what's called desalination, remove our salt from the seawater and other water, and we'll be fine. All right, we'll be able to drink fresh water as long as we take out a certain percentage of that salt. And it can be removed just by simply heating it up and boiling it and evaporating the ocean water. It's called distillation, right? Or by filtering it through membranes and tiny pores and traps of salt in reverse osmosis. All right. But this is really, really expensive. It uses a lot of energy and generates concentrated salty waste. All right. So now we got all this concentrated waste, and we don't know what to do with that. We just can't go ahead and put it all over our French fries. There's way too much salt out there. In Saudi Arabia, I mean, this is well done a lot. All right, Saudi Arabia gets most of its drinking water from desalination. Israel is doing a lot of that. So it is being done throughout the world, and we have the technology and the know-how, and it is possible. The problem is that it is not economically efficient as of yet to desalinate the water out there on the California coast and bring that all the way into um, the center of the United States and start, fertilizing or irrigating our cornfields with it. Okay. Since agriculture makes up the majority of the water demand, right? 70% of the water demand out there is done by agriculture. It's the most logical place to start conserving our water. And this is working a lot in the agriculture. And we're doing a lot of good stuff here in the United States because we have the technology and have the affluence, the money to be able to invest in this kind of technology. It's working really good. So we do lining irrigation canals and prevent leaks and leveling the fields to use gravity flow properly and things like that, so we don't get ruts and rivets during rainstorms. Moving from inefficient irrigation methods like they just flood the fields. We put a little stone out. We dig a hole in the side of a canal or a stream and put a stone in there, and then just lift it up and let it flood, and then put the stone back in there, and that's how we used to water the plants. But unfortunately, there would be so much flooding in the front, and the other way at the other side of the field, it would hardly get any water, and then you get those plants that got soaked dying off, and the other ones not getting enough water or dying off. It's a mess, right? It's not efficient whatsoever. So now what we do is do like some drip irrigation. All right, we have the technology to put those water, that water right by the roots. Plus, we know how to conserve it in the soil and things like that. So there's a lot of good stuff we can do for efficiencies. And even though the almond growers, I got on them last thing about them growing those trees out in California, they have become very, very efficient. All right. So eliminating water-intensive crops could. The almond tree growers in California use about 10% of all water consumed by that state. So there was some heavy regulations or prices put on the water and the almond tree is actually growers have actually become very, very efficient. That technology is rippling through the industry, all over the industry. So water use can be reduced in household by getting those low flow faucets, shower heads, and wash machines and stuff like that. I don't think you can buy anything out there that doesn't have a rating on it, just like we have the Energy Star ratings for washers and dryers, how much electricity you use. We also have those ratings for shower heads. Right? So you as a consumer can choose what you want to buy out there. But usually, the more efficient it is, a little more pricey it is, but you do your cost break-even analysis and say, hey, if I'm using this washer for this shower head for 5 years, am I saving money or not? Right? That's how everybody does it. Okay? Using alternative sources of water for gardening and lawn care also helps reduce the home's footprint. Okay, so get yourself a little harvesting bucket over there, put it against your house, and collect that rainwater, and that's what you use to, water your flower garden with. Right? There's also what's called gray water systems, which is used inside of homes. We talk about a lot about this in sustainable building designs, where you take out the water that's not really has any biological waste in it, because there's we don't want to take the kitchen sink stuff or the toilet stuff. All right, we want to separate those two things and have the biological wastewater in one area and the water we don't have that in like showers. All right, or just like the laundry room sink. All right, for washers or dryers or something like that. Take that water and put that down the toilet. All right, or we can take that gray water and then we treat it through a system like the Living Machine, and then take that out there and put it into the outside gardens. All right, so like that Living Machine, when you see those in that one video where they had the big long greenhouse in front of the house, that's all watered from a gray water system. All right, and all that water gets filtered to the toilets, through the plants, through the toilets, and then out to the gardens. All right. It is also called aquascaping, which is landscaping using plants adapted to the arid conditions. All right. So there's a big movement trying to put native plants in areas. All right. So you can go to Nevada and you'll see these golf courses out there with all this grass. I mean, that is not native to the desert area, right? Typically, you would not see a golf course out there, but it's got all this great great grass. And the state of Nevada is actually starting to pay some of the residents to switch over from planting grass in their homes to starting to put some of the native plants in there, some more cactuses and palm trees and stuff like that. So, knowing what grows, if you know the temperature and precipitation of a certain area, the biome, you can just decide what can grow there. And since we can bring in that water, we can grow a certain type of Bermuda grass in Arizona, but it needs a lot of water. All right. Industry can save water too by shifting the processes that use less of it. All right. So we have municipalities can recycle treated municipal waste for irrigation, fix leaks in pipes, reduce water loss. All right. But believe it or not, most of those golf courses out there in Las Vegas are actually using municipal water that has been slightly clean there, and then we can't do anything with it, and we take it and we actually water the golf courses with it. Okay. Nations often cooperate to solve water disputes. Okay, so there's going to be a lot more disputes out there as we go forward, because as water becomes more of a precious resource, not like it's already, right? But there are fears that unequal access to the fresh water worldwide will lead to conflict between the countries. We saw that research done by World Economic Forum, I guess it was. I showed you last video. All right, so there's definitely some hot spots out there that we need to look at for the potential conflicts. And right here, right, Pakistan, China, and India, right, the three, three of the four biggest places were right above Pakistan have use of water. Human needs, I guess, or human usage is right here. Okay, unbelievable. A total of 261 major rivers cross national boundaries, which makes disagreements a lot common. So it's not always about these big lakes. It's about these rivers and the glacier melt out there, like I said, in Pakistan, India, and China. So far, many of the nations have cooperated to resolve these disputes. Okay, India has struck agreements with Pakistan, okay, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, to co-manage the trans-boundary rivers. All right, so I see hope. Okay, and I think everybody understands how important water is and how we need to be just about the distribution, the unequal distribution of water in the world. Okay. But there's also water pollution we need to worry about, not just water withdrawal and the conflicts of trying to just, consume it. All right. We need to, people can affect our aquatic system by introducing toxic substances. So we need to keep it clean, right? Despite major improvements in recent decades, and we really made some great strides in cleaning our water here in the United States and around the world. The World Commission of Water recently concluded that half of the world's major rivers remain seriously depleted and polluted, degrading and poisoning the surrounding ecosystems, threatening the health and livelihood of people who depend on them, right? And that's not just, in third world countries. It's actually happening in here, right? The Flint River has caused some problems with Flint City and her water, and threaten the health and livelihood of the people who depend on that water system. All right. Water pollution includes any changes that are chemically, physically, or biologically properties of the water due to human activity. All right. So it has to change something chemically and physically or biologically. Okay. And that we know that's like, for instance, the lead added to that water changes it chemically or physically, right? There's an added physical attribute to that water, right? Carbon dioxide doesn't really change or affect the atmosphere chemically, all right? It doesn't give us more rain, it just heats it up, okay? Many impacts of water pollution are not visible, such as the pH, nutrients. We talked about acidity. All right, you need good acidity in the oil. You also need that with the water, with the soil, not oil. And with water, nutrient concentrates, dissolved oxygen. So there's a lot of different chemical things that happen in water and physical things that we need to address so that the water can be healthy it's a healthy ecosystem. So there's two kinds of pollution. All right, there is what's called point source pollution and a non-point source pollution. These two things are going to be on a test. This is one of the things I'll add to the test here. I think I talked about point and non-point source pollution before, anyways. So point source are discrete locations that release water pollution. All right, so we can see them. All right, we can physically see there is a sewage plant right there, and we see the water source coming out into the streams. And we can pinpoint where it is, and we can say, hey, we're going to regulate you, and we're not going to. These are what's generally considered safe, and this is what you have to abide by. Non-point sources arrive from multiple inputs over large areas, such as farms, city streets, and registered neighborhoods. So who is the person responsible for sending the water table over the edge, right? Which cigarette is it that I smoked in my lifetime that actually gave me cancer? Okay, non-point solution. Okay, it's really hard to pinpoint. And these are the hardest ones to actually manage. Okay, point, we can see it, non-point, it's harder to manage, and you're asking society to change. And it's an interesting, I wish we would have been doing those presentations, because someone, I think in both the classes maybe, we were going to do the new laws that Obama put into place to help manage some of these non-point source pollutions. And then Trump got rid of them, of course. They're still in litigation, and we're still talking about it in the courts, right? But to be able to regulate non-point is very tough, okay? Water pollution comes from point and non-point. So, which farm was it that went over the edge, right? Who put too much fertilizer on their fields, all right? Here we can see just a point sewage plant definitely did it, or maybe even we know this feedlot did it because it was right there, okay? But what neighborhood, right? All the salts on the winter roads, oil, grease, chemicals, and herbicides that the house puts in. What house did it, right? Sometimes we can see if we clear out that forest, we know that, hey, that's probably the problems, right? So those are the two types of different sources. Okay, water pollution takes a lot of different forms. All right, so many types are toxic chemicals have been released into the water sources. So we got pesticides out there, petroleum products, heavy metals, acid, all these different things. Okay, that are man-made derivatives. But we also have disease-causing organisms like that, a worm, like any worm that we saw in the video. Okay. We also have two different kinds of oxygen pollution, I guess we could put it in layman's terms, called eutrophication. All right, and this is a natural process. All right, it happens all the time. We have dead zones and eutrophication occurring naturally in Mother Nature throughout the seasons. But human inputs, all right, from farms and golf courses and lawns and sewage can drastically increase this rate. So it creates what's called a dead zone. All right. So we have a very low oxygenated waters have formed in the Gulf of Mexico due to nutrients flow in Mississippi, down the Mississippi River. All right. So we talked about this many times. We have the nitrogen and phosphorus gets into the waterways, causes an algae bloom. The algae end up taking out all the oxygen, and then no fish want to live there, right? Because there's no oxygen to breathe, and they move out farther. Okay, this is what's called the dead zone, and this dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico gets bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. And that means an economic impact is the fishermen have to go out farther and farther to get their fish, right? And that's going to increase the cost of fishing. Okay, maybe someday this will get shorter, smaller during the spring, but during the winter time it dissipates. All right, because no one's farming, okay, and not adding any more stuff into here, okay, and slowly but surely the oxygen comes back because of the waves. Right? The water will start turning around. We got the big old Gulf of Mexico thing that gyre, that just whipping around here, and it slowly but surely brings back the oxygen. And then the fish come back, and then the next spring, fertilizer rolls down here. We get an algae bloom. We got a bigger dead zone in the middle of the summer, and then it comes back in the winter. Okay, natural forming thing that happens every single time naturally, but we just exacerbate it and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. Environmental science, studying humans' impact on the environment. Excessive nutrient concentrates, like I said, lead lead to how those harmful algae blooms that we just discussed. Okay, human waste, inanimate manure, pulp, paper mills, and yard waste are all considered biodegradable pollutions. Okay, and they add to this algae blooms as well. These also lower the oxygen levels in the water and materials, so it's all organic. It just, Mother Nature has a way. They're called the decomposers, and the more stuff we put in here, the more they're going to decompose. Wastewater is affected by human activities and includes water from toilets, sinks, dishwashers, machine washing. So we have a separate category for our our human use of wastewater, right? Of what we use for our household and activities. Sediments are eroded soil carried to rivers by runoff and transported long distances. So sometimes we put the stuff into our wastewater in here, right? And rolls down the river and then ends up just piling up in sediments at the end of the spillway here, all right? Clear-cutting mining activities are as that exacerbate these problems of the runoff, right, and eroding the river system. So we ruin these little ripen areas that kind of stop, just like the mangroves stop the waves going into shore that we saw in that one little video the other day. The rivers and the ripen areas stop all this sediment and runoff from just dumping out here so quickly and causing this stuff, all right? And when those are clear cut and the ripen areas disappear, that runoff just increases exponentially, and we get even more sediment down in the bottoms. All right. We also take, we got our different spills out there in our environment from chasing the fossil fuels. Large spills are infrequent, but their impacts are, staggering. And we had the Exxon Valdez and Deepwater Horizon were two big ones here in the United States. My little they still happen in smaller levels. We have this happen in pipelines as well as out in the waterways. If you ever hear of any of these things come up, and my little trick to you is to remember the first report, whatever it is, double it, right? And look, in 3 weeks, they'll come out with new statistics saying, we misestimated our first. It wasn't 500 barrels. It was 2,000 barrels. I'm serious. It's so funny. But these are hard, and they're getting lower, right? No, I don't think no company wants to have this happen, all right? But they also want to be cost effective. Okay, so I don't know what to say. They happen, and nothing's perfect. Okay, discarded fishing nets and stuff like that is also part of the water pollution. Okay, so we still have all these nets, and this is kind of the stuff that one kid that was inventing that thing to go out there and clean out the Pacific Ocean. This is what really started it. There was a captain out there who saw these fishing nets and then decided to drag some of that stuff out, and that's when he started noticing these shards, all right, of little tiny plastics. And this was like in the early, late 90s when we started really noticing the Great Pacific Garbage Patches out there, okay? And they say that one such area in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch area, the Southern Pacific plastic, outnumbered the plankton by 6-to-1 ratio. All right, so they went in there, and those little tiny shards I showed you in that little picture. All right, there were more of those little tiny shards than plankton. Unbelievable. And plankton is the food is the primary producer for the oceans. Okay, there's like plants are the primary producers here on Earth, on terrestrial land. Plankton is the primary producer. There's a lot of plankton. They're small and very numerous. So for plastic to outdo them is crazy. All right. We also have the groundwater pollution, and it's a really difficult problem because this is groundwater. Remember, that's what's inside of our aquifers. So if you let some of those toxic chemicals leach out into the aquifer, it's going to take another 1,000,000 years for them to settle down to the bottom part that we talked about. on the bottom where it's all bracky, and we suck that up, it can pollute the water. So it takes a while. I mean, it will settle down eventually, but it'll take millions of years. Most pollution control measures have focused on the surface water while forgetting about the groundwater and how vulnerable it is. But we're making some strides in it. All right, and it's not going to really, be able. We can't really clean them. They won't clean themselves, right? Because it's a closed system. So chemicals break down much more slowly in aquifers due to the lack of sunlight and the microbes. So there's no real living machine inside of the aquifers to be able to clean them out, like lakes and stuff, rivers and stuff like that. And we really need to address also the withdrawal of the groundwater, okay, and the concentrates of pollutions that are present. Okay, so sometimes we go down even further, we're going to have more pollutants, like I talked about before. Certain chemicals such as aluminum, fluoride, nitrates, and sulfurs occur naturally in groundwater due to its contact with rocks. So there is some natural pollution and things like that get into the water system, of course. But human sources include leaking underground storage tanks from a gasoline station or a coal fire plant leaching bed where it stores their coal ash and sludge. Okay, more than 1/3 of the underground tanks and housing radioactive waste in Hanover Nuclear Reservation in Washington are leaking into the groundwater supply. So, nuclear power, let's think about that. What are we going to do with that radioactive waste? We thought at one time we could just bury it, and lo and behold, it's showing up in the Hanover in Hanover Reservation in Washington. Unbelievable. Okay, yeah, we really treat our freaking Native Americans right. Water pollution has been reduced greatly by the passage of Clean Water Act in 1977. So we've done a lot of good stuff here in the United States, and hopefully a lot of countries are going to learn from us of what we did. And I think China is probably the first place that's going to implement some of these good things because their waters it's just getting outrageous. All right, they're at the point that we were, I think, in 1960. Now people are starting to kind of get mad about all this pollution. Okay. But we've done great strides, all right? But there is some underfunding in recent years that have led to increase in the documentation violations, numbering more than 100,000 per year. So you got to remember when Trump says that he's going for every regulation that he puts in, he's going to remove 2 regulations. Well, those 2 regulations might be with this water and keeping our water clean, all right? It's not about we have too much or too little regulations. It's about what the regulation is, and it doesn't make sense. Okay, I am not for doing way over what's generally considered safe. I'm about trying to implement what is generally considered safe. We can't change the fact that lead messes you up in the head. All right, so let's do what's generally considered safe and not worry about the money. Basically, it is what it is. I want a free market and an efficient market out there. We got to pay the true cost. The Great Lakes in North America are one of the biggest success stories, all right, for cleaning up toxic chemical levels that have been reduced by 71%, phosphorus by 80%, and chlorinated pollutants by 82%. All right, believe it or not, they've used some of those ecological machines that John Todd built to apply out there in the Great Lakes success story. All right, some of this stuff has been done by reducing farmers reducing the phosphorus out there, right? But they also used, in the video it showed that one wind turbine going down at that little deck, all right? He has those all over the place, okay? So before reaching the tap water from the reservoir or something like aquifer, it is treated with chemicals to remove particular matters, filtered sand and gravel, charcoal, disinfected with chlorine, and tested for levels of contaminants based on the standard set of EPA regulations. So all the water we drink have these generally considered safe, and we look for about 90 contaminants based on the standard set of EPA. So there's a lot of contaminants though out there that we don't look for. All right, we're not really looking for any Viagra or anything like that. We're just looking for some standard stuff. Okay. In rural areas, septic systems are are put in a septic tank, then it's taken out and removed. But in our urban settings, we have to use what's called a primary treatment plant for our sewage systems, right? And it goes through a couple different steps, right, to get there. All right, so at first it goes through a little screening, okay, get out the big stuff, right, and that big stuff is just taken and shuttered out into the landfill, okay. Then it goes through its primary clarification, where the oils and grease and solids are removed a little bit more. A lot of it just settles down here on the bottom, right, and then shipped on out, okay. Then it gets aerated. We add some oxygen into the system, and it starts to actually bacteria start to eat it. And we add in our some biological components into here to eat some of the leftover waste that we can't get and dissolve, and also the metals right here are also settling down to the bottom. And then we filter it out once more and then disinfect it and goes back out to our systems. All right. But in each one of these steps, you notice that there is some waste. All right. Some of it we can use again. All right. We're taking out the big sludge and we send that to an aerobic digester. All right. It's just like the leftover poop and stuff like that. All right. And we let the Mother Nature, it's a living machine. All right. The same thing we do with the landfills. Okay, we use the anaerobic digesters for the sludge, and that eats it up, makes some landfill gas where we can make some electricity or send it out to farms after it's all done, because it's basically compost at this time, right? The biosolids become compost. And this is what we basically, this is what the living machine does, all right, with the biological, right? But it's just not as fast. And it can't be built up to huge scales of New York City per se. All right, we need a lot of little tiny machines that can do their process more, within carrying capacity. Okay, but I'm glad we have this, and cities are good. But maybe we can put a little bit of buy more of the living machines in cleaning this instead of bringing in all these different chemicals to clean it in the primary clarification step. All right, this is what really makes it go fast. Okay. So let's end the water section there. The rest is about the oceans and the pollution in the oceans. So, but I'll let you guys review that yourself. All right. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for putting up with me this semester. Hang in there. Hopefully next semester we'll be able to get back on campus. If not, I think we'll be able to all do this online. And we'll get better as time goes on. Okay. Now I want everybody to stay safe. And remember that democracy begins with you. So tag your it. Don't forget to go out there and vote. Primary, you can vote in the primary via absentee ballot, mail-in, and also probably for the regular election too. So let's all stay safe out there. Use our critical thinking skills to figure out what's going on. All right, and hopefully I'll see you when we in some of my sustainability classes. All right, remember you can take those as an elective as well. We can learn about a little bit about ecological design together. My favorite subject. Okay. All right, everybody. Peace be with you, and stay safe.